Nigeria doesn't have even 10% or 5% of the energy needs of the country, and which has affected development negatively.
Yeah, of course, Nigeria, we have energy poverty in the country, so definitely we need a lot more energy, a lot more electricity than we have now. And I'm really surprised that Kogi State is taking this kind of is being taken on in terms of providing energy sources that are actually questionable.
We have a 1,200 megawatt license, power plant license, which will be broken into 4 in modules of 300 megawatts each.
Would you like to leave all Nigerian coal in the ground and not start electricity production from it? And if so, why?
The whole world knows at this time we are facing a climate crisis, and everyone, the most conservative organization like the World Bank, International Energy Agency, have all agreed that at least 80% of known reserves of fossil fuels, including coal, gas, oil, must be left underground if the world is going to avoid runaway global warming. If we have a global temperature of 4 degrees average, Celsius average, that would mean 6 degrees for Africa. It will mean that we're going to have, you could utilize the resource, but then Africa, people will not be able to inhabit the continent. And so that's the critical issue.
When you now find that the current situation in the country is that there's a huge gap between what you have and what you need to even come to a minimum of even keel, you begin to see that the key thing for now is that we use what we have to get what we need.
I will bring this back to you, but let me talk a little bit from our experience in Germany. Germany's industrial revolution has started with coal. That's where the first massive electricity supplies were coming from. If you go into these coal-producing areas today, you still witness and see a lot of labor poverty. These are poor areas, and you see a lot of environmental devastation, which comes at the cost. So you have affected the rivers, the streams, the whole environment. You also have whole areas and villages and cities sinking because of the water situation underground. How do you see the future, let's say around the Okobo mining site, where there's so many people, you expect so much mining going on, but then what about the negative consequences? There will be an environmental impact of your production, and what do you do with that?
You talk about Germany, and this is the Germany we all like to be, the home of the Mercedes-Benz and the good autobahns and the good life. We would say, well, why don't give it to us, and then when the negative aspects come, we will deal with it. But the point is that Germany needed power and got it and became a world power based on the fact that it was able to become industrialized and so on. So these are hard facts. We would have to become aware, react to the fact that there are downsides, and as we do that, we try to get the best practices.
So what do you prefer? We are today at 4,000 megawatt for the whole country. We need at least 100,000. The Energy Commission predicts we need 200,000 megawatt by 2030. What is the choice here? Do we rather have energy poverty and a healthy environment, or do we rather have a lot of electricity and a bit of environmental damage?
Well, we always have to measure the trade-offs, and I think coal is not the only option. Neither is gas the only option. We have other options that are safer. We have the solar option. We have the wind option. We have other thermal option that is not from burning fossil fuels.
Because on the other side of it, you need energy. I agree that there are renewable options. The important thing is to be aware that it's not only just coal or gas, but you can't exclude them.
Coal looks interesting, but just because we have coal in the country. But just because you have a resource does not mean that you have to exploit it.
But then what about the negative consequences? There will be an environmental impact of your production, and what do you do with that?
I have said earlier that our technology will be one that reduces emission, at least bring it to the minimum levels. That's one.
Does that mean when you live around the coal power plant, you won't have any respiratory illnesses?
I don't, even without coal power plants, we have respiratory problems. We do. Even without.
You won't have any problem living next to your plant?
Of course, there would be people living there. We would have, there would be an estate full with people. It will attract a lot of people.
Full of the workers, but the top shots will not live there.
I don't see why not.
It's just the notion that human beings can use technology to fix any kind of problem. And then the problem eventually is externalized to the environment and to the people.
But the point is, I don't want to sound like one is too sanguine. You know, you can't have an omelette without breaking some eggs. And this is the way life is. Even without any coal plant, in fact, any plant at all in those areas, people still have problems, health problems. The only thing that helps everybody is knowledge about what you are doing and what can be the mitigating strategies to put in, and then to make sure that these things are being done.
Coal is really bad for the environment, and you know, nobody can go on coal forever because, as I said earlier, it's not a renewable product, it's not a renewable resource. And Nigeria is in a desperate situation when it comes to energy production. But this should not force government to take desperate actions. We need to sit down to think, to weigh the cost, to think about what are the impacts.